I thought I heard the old man say, leave her, Johnny, leave her. Tomorrow you will get your pay, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is long and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her.
Sea shanties are a style of song that would have been sung aboard merchant naval ships, crucial for the running of the ship and the running of the timing of the ship and making sure that it was, all the jobs on board were getting done. And so they had a kind of very specific meter or rhythm, and those would normally relate to a job on the ship. So whether that was hauling sail or away anchor or any of those sorts of very labour-intensive jobs that would have involved, many people, usually men, not always, but doing this work.
I dreamed a dream the other night. Lowlands away, my John. My love, he came, all dressed in white. Lowlands away. I dream my love came in my sleep. Lowlands away, my John.
Ever since I was young, sea shanties have been around me. They've always been in the background since I moved, especially since I moved to Devon when I was quite young, I was about 8, and the village I lived in there was always a yearly sea shanty for the local Christmas performance, and it's just something that every step it's popped up somewhere. I think it just became this material that was an obvious thing for me to work with, because it's about storytelling, but it's about storytelling from people who are often living in a very liminal space. And as a queer person, that's quite a relatable theme.
Strike the bell, second mate, let's go below. Look a well to windward, you can see it's going to blow. Look at the glass, you can see that it has fell. We wish that you would hurry up and strike the bell, second mate, let's go below. Look a well to windward, you can see it's going to blow. Look at the glass, you can see that it has fell. We wish that you would hurry up and strike the bell. Thank you very much.
I just had this idea that I wanted to work with music, and I didn't really know how, and then the idea of doing something with sea shanties kind of evolved out of a few conversations, and then I kind of landed on, let's try and bring together that interest and my kind of lived experience as a queer person and try and explore queer narratives through sea shanties.
We'll tip the brandy.
Tip the brandy.
Tip the brandy.
Tip the brandy.
Tip the brandy. Now see how it tastes.
How it tastes.
And also to challenge, because, the time we live in now is very different to then, and the things that were acceptable then aren't necessarily acceptable now, and rightly so. And so it was also a process of kind of having to face some potential, like some language that was maybe that could be confronting for me, but also for other people from the marginalised communities. There's a lot of kind of, obviously during the time, a lot of them were popular during the time where slavery was still, okay. It's having that material and understanding that bringing a contemporary lens to it, or contemporary voice to it, you are changing it, but you are not, you are still working with it, and you are still bringing that to new audiences and bringing that with a new understanding. And that's the understanding that we have the benefit of now.
But if you think it's nasty, stick to your maiden's pasty. We won't let good brandy go to waste. For we won't let good brandy go to waste.
So I think with research, it really has to underpin this kind of work, because not all history is potentially correct, or maybe there's things about history that need to be reviewed. And doing projects like this, or enacting traditions in this way, provides an opportunity to challenge those stories and those histories that have been, I guess, given to us.
When they were building Devonport Docks in Plymouth, they needed a lot of gravel and shingle for it. And what happened with Start Bay is every summer there was the beach at Hall Sands slowly disappeared. And then every winter it came back again. And they assumed that the sea was bringing all this shingle to Hall Sands that they could take. They hadn't considered the fact that Start Bay being so large, the shingle was moving from one end of the bay to the other. It wasn't coming in from the edges. So they moved 1,600 tonnes, metric tonnes a day of shingle.
Villagers remarked how their usual tide line that had been 80, 90 foot from the first house suddenly only became 3 foot. And so when the storm came in 1917, there was nothing to stop the waters coming up, and it just came up and destroyed everything.
So I came and did some research about the area, and I was very taken by the story of Hall Sands and the Trout Sisters. So I've decided to rewrite a traditional shanty called A Long Time Ago to reflect that story. It's called Sisters Against the Tide. A long, long time and a very long time to be way, hey, hey, oh! A long, long time and a very long time, a long time ago. From Kingsbridge to Hall Sands, a wild stormy day to be way, hey, hey, oh! I hurried right after some fears to allay a long time ago. By time I reached Hall Sands, the bay had been had to be way, hey, hey, oh! By Jackson, a madman, a bounder, a cad, a long time ago. From Star Point to Keam, the steamers were tossed to be way, hey, hey, oh! The homes of the fishers now sea-swept and lost a long time ago.
So looking into Hall Sands and kind of the heritage of that area is so fascinating, just because in terms of having such a small location that's been through such a massive change and such a huge devastation, which was, caused by basically other people that have nothing to do with that space. The fact that it was where the Trout Sisters lived and worked and after the devastation where they set up their hotel, there's clearly a lot of character in that one small area, which, considering it's a cluster of only a handful of houses, is really fascinating, and how that links into the kind of heritage around Kingsbridge, but also this part of Devon more broadly. It seems very fitting to kind of immortalise that in a shanty, because it was clearly, in terms of being a fishing village, it was clearly a very seafaring focused area, and that's how people lived and died by the sea, and bringing that into that tradition, I think would be really important. It'll be really special, I think, because it's there. The story of what's happened in that space is there, and it's out there. It's it's known, but it's not necessarily told in a contemporary setting, and it's not necessarily told in a contemporary way, which I think is an interesting challenge.
Then two sturdy sisters, not scared of a fray, to be way, hey, hey, oh! These sea-hardened maidens keeping watch of the bay a long time ago. Ella recounted her tales of the shore, to be way, hey, hey, oh! The crab pots, the scuffles, the saviour in war a long time ago. Patience was proud of their rid of the trouts, to be way, hey, hey, oh! These attractive Polonies had built and decked out a long time ago. The bricks and the mortar for their bully hands to me way, hey, hey, oh! No worry for strength matching near any man's a long time ago. From Hall Sands to Kingsbridge, oh wild stormy days to me way, hey, hey, oh! The tale of the sisters keeping watch of the bay a long time ago.
To perform it in terms of the emotional reaction, it's very varied because it's very exposing, and it can, in some situations it can feel a little bit more kind of, how's this going to go down? And there can be a bit of trepidation, but the truth is that people are people the world over, and the queerness and marginalised kind of lived experience will be present in all of those places in one form or another. And so Kingsbridge won't necessarily open up its own version of Canal Street, but maybe it can forbear having a moment where it understands queer heritage from a different point of view and maybe celebrates where that exists in that community. Bringing vibrancy and bringing kind of joy and laughter, and I think that's what I want to bring most of all, is to bring joy and queer joy into that space for those audiences to hopefully get on board with and get something out of, or maybe learn something about queer people that maybe they didn't know, and maybe it will dispel some preconceptions that are kind of unhelpful.
But there's no other place in this fair realm
You'd rather ride cannonballing at sea, boys dreamt of mill-bay mates while I dwelled on a game of cards. For it seems I drew the ace of spades, not the randy jack of hearts.
Thank you.